Hello, Dyersburg Primary School kiddos. This is Miss Vanessa Kane at McIvers Grant Public Library, and I'm so happy to be here today to read to you one of my very favorite books, and it goes along with your unit, Our Community, Places We Go. And of course, Miss Vanessa likes the library. This is where I get to work. I work downtown across from City Hall, not in your library at school, and I usually get to come read to you in person, but right now we're doing it by video. And so today I want to read to you Library Lion. And this book is written by Michelle Knudsen. She's the author, so she wrote the words. And Kevin Hawks is the illustrator of this book. He drew these beautiful pictures. I want you to stop and think, what would you do if a lion walked into your library while you were in there? What would you do? Let's think about what happens when we read it, okay? It's beautiful. End papers, do you see how beautiful that picture is? Didn't they do a lot of detail? And this book was honored, given in honor of somebody who finished the summer reading program in 2006. Library Lion. One day, a lion came to the library. He walked right past the circulation desk and up into the stacks. And did you know that these shelves behind me that hold books in the library, they're called stacks? I didn't know that. A lot of times you have to go into the stacks to either pull a book or to put one away. Mr. McBee ran down the hall to the head librarian's office. "Miss Merriweather," he called. "No running," Miss Merriweather said without looking up. "But there's a lion," said Mr. McBee, "in the library." "Is he breaking any rules?" said Miss Merriweather. She was very particular about rule breaking. "Well, no," said Mr. McBee, "not really." "Then leave him be." There's Mr. McBee running down the hall. Do you think a lion belongs in the library? Miss Merriweather said, "If he's not breaking any rules, leave him be." The lion wandered all around the library. He sniffed at the card catalog. He rubbed his head against the new book collection. You see him rubbing his head across those new books. And then he padded over to the story corner and went to sleep. No one was sure what to do. There weren't any rules about lions in the library. What would you do if a lion was in the library? Soon it was time for story hour. There weren't any rules about lions at story hour either. The story lady seemed a little nervous, but she read out the first book's title in a good, clear voice. The lion looked up, and the story lady kept reading. Look at her face. I think that's how my face would look if there was a lion in my library. She looks a little nervous, doesn't she? But how does the lion look? He's interested, isn't he? He's looking at the book. The lion stayed for the next story and the story after that, and he waited for another story, but the children began to walk away. "Story hour is over," a little girl told him. "It's time to go." The lion looked at the children, he looked at the story lady, and he looked at the closed books, and then he roared very loud. Look at that roar in that book. Look, I like it when they do that with the words. Roar really loud in that book. Can you stop right now and all together as a class? Let's roar like our lion. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Roar! He's so mad that story time is over. Miss Merriweather came striding out of her office. "Who is making that noise?" she demanded. "It's the lion," said Mr. McBee. Miss Merriweather marched over to the lion. "If you cannot be quiet, you will have to leave," she said in a stern voice. "Those are the rules." The lion kept roaring. He sounded sad. A little girl tugged on Miss Merriweather's dress. "If he promises to be quiet, can he come back for story hour tomorrow?" she asked. The lion stopped roaring. He looked at Miss Merriweather. Miss Merriweather looked back. Then she said, "Yes, a nice, quiet lion would certainly be allowed to come back to story hour tomorrow." "Hooray," said the children. So we had a good friend help the lion out, didn't we? We had a good friend to see if he behaves tomorrow, can he come back? Sometimes we do have trouble and we have to leave, don't we? But do we get to come back? We do. We get another chance. The next day the lion did come back. You are early, said Miss Merriweather. Story hour is not till 3 o'clock. The lion didn't budge. Look at Miss Merriweather looking at her clock. Look at those books she's got to put away. Very well, said Miss Merriweather. You might as well make yourself useful. She sent him off to dust the encyclopedias until it was time for story hour. And what is he dusting those encyclopedias with? Can you see what he's using to dust the encyclopedias? What's he using? His tail. Yes, if you had a tail that looked like a feather duster, would you help your teacher keep her books clean? I bet you would. I bet you would be a helper, wouldn't you? The next day, the lion came early again. This time, Miss Merriweather asked him to lick all the envelopes for overdue notices. Have you ever licked envelopes for overdue notices? Look at the lion's big old wet tongue. Look at how he's licking all those envelopes. If you had a big old wet tongue like that, would you help your teacher lick all those envelopes? I bet you would, even though it would taste really yucky, wouldn't it? Ugh. Soon the lion began doing things without being asked. He dusted the encyclopedias, he licked the envelopes, he let small children stand on his back to reach books on the highest of shelves, and then he curled up in the story corner to wait for story hour to begin. Look at the lion being a helper. Are you a helper? Oh, and there he is, resting and waiting. And look at the little one is using him as a pillow. At first, people in the library were nervous about the lion, but soon they got used to having him around. In fact, he seemed very well suited for the library. His big feet were quiet on the library floor. He made a comfy backrest for the children at story hour, and he never roared in the library anymore. What a helpful lion, people said. They patted his soft head as he walked by. How did we ever get along without him? Mr. McBee scowled when he heard that. They had always gotten along fine before. No lions were needed. Lions, he thought, could not understand the rules, and they did not belong in the library. There's a lion and all of his friends. You see, he's got books he's giving them, and he's got his big, quiet feet that make no noise on the floor, and he's getting patted on his nice, soft head. And doesn't he look happy? And isn't he following the rules? He is, isn't he? He's being a good helper. And right there, you can see Mr. McBee is not happy about this situation. I don't think Mr. McBee is being a very good friend. Do you think Mr. McBee is being a very good friend? He's not really giving the lion a chance, is he? He just said he's a lion and he doesn't belong here. He doesn't pay attention to the fact that the lion is obeying the rules and did learn not to roar. Let's find out what happens. One day, after he had dusted all of the encyclopedias and licked all of the envelopes and helped all the small children, the lion padded down the hall to Miss Merriweather's office to see what else there was to do. There was still some time left before story hour. "Hello, Lion," said Miss Merriweather. "I know something you can do. You can bring a book back into the stacks for me. Let me just get it down from this shelf." Miss Merriweather stepped up onto the step stool. The book was just out of her reach. Miss Merriweather stood on her toes and she stretched out her fingers. Look at Miss Merriweather on that stool. Do you see her on her toes, stretching out her fingers, trying to get that book way up there, just a little bit out of her reach? If you are standing on a stool, should you stand on your tiptoes and stretch out your fingers and lean? No! Why not? Why should you not do that? What might happen? "Almost there," Miss Merriweather said, and then Miss Merriweather stretched a little too far. What do you think happened when she stretched a little too far on that stool underneath her? What do you think happened? Can y'all tell me? Say it out loud. You're right. Oh, ouch, Miss Merriweather said softly, and she did not get up. "Mr. McBee," she called after a minute. "Mr. McBee." But Mr. McBee was at the circulation desk, and he could not hear her calling. There's a lion looking at his friend who's fallen down. She might need some help. "Lion," said Miss Merriweather, "please go and get Mr. McBee." The lion ran down the hall. "No running," said Miss Merriweather. She doesn't want the lion to break the rules even when she's hurt. The lion put his big front paws up on the circulation desk and looked at Mr. McBee. "Go away, lion," said Mr. McBee. "I'm busy." The lion whined. He pointed his nose down the hall toward Miss Merriweather's office. Mr. McBee ignored him. Finally, the lion did the only thing he could think of to do. He looked Mr. McBee right in the eye, and he opened his mouth, and he roared the loudest roar he had ever roared in all of his life. And can you do that now? Can you roar at the loudest roar you've ever roared in all of your life? Look at that picture. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Roar! Oh my goodness, what a big roar. Oh my goodness. Look at Mr. McBee. His glasses flew right off. Now what do you think is going to happen? Mr. McBee gasped. "You are not being quiet," he said to the lion. "You are breaking the rules." Mr. McBee walked down the hall as fast as he could. The lion did not follow him. He had broken the rules. He knew what that meant. He hung his head and he walked toward the doors. Mr. McBee did not notice. "Miss Merriweather," he called as he walked. "Miss Merriweather." The lion broke the rules. The lion broke the rules. Oh, look at Mr. McBee. Is he being a good friend? He is not. You see the lion? Doesn't he look sad with his tail low? Walking out the doors. He doesn't think he can come back to the library now because he roared again. Let's see what happens. Mr. McBee burst into Miss Merriweather's office. She was not in her chair. "Miss Merriweather?" he asked. "Sometimes," said Miss Merriweather from the floor behind her desk, "there is a good reason to break the rules, even in the library. Now please go call a doctor. I think I've broken my arm." Mr. McBee ran to call a doctor. "No running," Miss Merriweather called after him. And there she is on the floor, and he found out why the lion was roaring. The next day, things were back to normal. Almost. Miss Merriweather's left arm was in a cast. The doctor had told her not to work too hard. "I will have my lion to help me," Miss Merriweather thought, but the lion did not come to the library that morning. At 3 o'clock, Miss Merriweather walked over to the story corner. The story lady was just beginning a story for the children, but the lion was not there. Why wasn't he there? Why didn't he come? Can you tell me? Why didn't he come to the library that day? People in the library kept looking up from their books and computer screens, hoping they would see a familiar furry face, but the lion did not come that day. The lion did not come the next day either, or the day after that. And there's that busy, busy library with no lion in it. And you see all the kids. They look sad. They're waiting for their friend. What about Miss Merriweather? She looks sad too. Oh. They're in the beanbag because they don't have the lion to lean against. All the people at the computers looking around for their lion. And there's Mr. McBee shelving books in the back. One evening, Mr. McBee stopped by Miss Merriweather's office on his way out. "Can I do anything for you before I go, Miss Merriweather?" he asked her. "No, thank you," said Miss Merriweather. She was looking out the window. Her voice was very quiet, even for the library. Does Miss Merriweather look happy? Why do you think she's sad? What would make you sad if you were in that situation? Mr. McBee frowned as he walked away. He thought there probably was something he could do for Miss Merriweather after all. And what do you think Mr. McBee could do for Miss Merriweather that might make her happy? What do you think he could do? Mr. McBee left the library, but he did not go home. He walked around the neighborhood. He looked under cars. He looked behind bushes. He looked in backyards and trash cans and tree houses. What is he looking for? What do you think he's looking for all around the neighborhood? What do you think he's looking for? Finally, he circled all the way back to the library. The lion was sitting outside looking in through the glass doors. "Hello, lion," said Mr. McBee. Now that lion looks sad, doesn't he? It's a rainy day, too, even on top of that. Poor lion's all soaked and rainy. The lion did not turn around. "I thought you might like to know," said Mr. McBee, "that there's a new rule at the library. No roaring allowed unless You have a very good reason. Say if you're trying to help a friend who's been hurt, for example. The lion's ears twitched. He turned around, but Mr. McBee was already walking away. What do you think that means? What does that mean? Did they change the rule in the library? The next day, Mr. McBee walked down the hall to Miss Merriweather's office. "What is it, Mr. McBee?" Mrs. Merriweather said in her new, sad, quiet voice. "I thought you might like to know," said Mr. McBee, "that there's a lion in the library." Miss Merriweather jumped up from her chair and ran down the hall. Mr. McBee smiled. "No running," he called after her. Even Miss Merriweather broke the rules when she got excited, didn't she? Miss Merriweather didn't listen. She kept running. Sometimes there's a good reason to break the rules, even in the library. The lion's back. I want you to look at all of our friends in the library. Who looks happy? The kids look happy. Somebody's doing a handstand in the library. Oh, Miss Merriweather looks happy. The lion looks happy. Look at all the children. They look happy. All the adults are glad to see the lion again. And can you see Mr. McBee right there in the middle? Does he look happy? Oh, he is so happy because he learned that he could be a good friend to the lion too, didn't he? And that is the end of that book. And one of the reasons that I love this book is because I get to hear you roar. Usually I get to hear that big roar when you roar twice in our book. And another reason I like this book is because it reminds us that the library belongs to everybody. Did you know that? That when you come to the library to check out a book, that it's your book you're checking out. All of these books are for you. This is just, my job is just to take care of them and make sure that you can find them. So you come out and see us at the MacIver's Grant Library, and I promise that we will let you come on in. We might tell you not to roar, but you'll be able to come in and enjoy the library just like the lion does. And then you will also, I was going to say something else, but I forgot what it was because I got so excited about the lion. You come down and see us, though, okay? And go see Miss Angie in your library to get some books there, too. All right? All right, you have a wonderful day, and maybe do one more roar if your teacher says it's okay, and I will see you later.